good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Making It Make Sense with Reverend Jeffrey Stafford. I'm Reverend Jeffrey Stafford. I'm J.A. Stafford, making it make sense for us tonight. Well, we are always simply trying to bring together the sanctuary, the streets, and the social square, talking about all of the different things that are happening in and around our city and our county here in Jackson, Mississippi, as well as the statewide efforts that are going on, whatever's happening in and around our community and our country, and how delighted we are to have all of you who will gather with us and join with us today. I want to start out by saying to you tonight that I was not able to be with us on last week for our Tuesday night, 8 p.m. session. Last week was my son's 16th birthday, and so we were doing birthday stuff and celebrating his birthday. But what a tremendous time that we have been having. What all the things that have been going on in our community and in our city. They are jumping off the screen. I mean, they are jumping and leaping off the pages of the news every single day. There are so many different things going on. We have the Brett Favre situation. We have, obviously, we have Tate Reeves and the mayor. We have the EPA and the mayor. We have the religious leaders and the mayor. We have the water crisis. We have so many things that are happening in and around our community and our city at this particular point in time. And I'm just glad that we are able to come into this space and into this place and make it make sense, making it make sense, bringing together all of the things that are happening in our sanctuaries, our streets, and our social square, bringing them to the table and making sure that we are discussing them and bringing to bear some truth on the situations and circumstances that are happening all around us. In Proverbs chapter 1, you hear King Solomon say, who is the son of David, say, listen, I have given you these proverbs so that you will know wisdom and instruction, to understand words of insight, so that you can receive instruction in dealing wisely, in righteousness, in justice, and equity, to give prudence to the simple, knowledge and discretion to the young. Let the wise hear his learning, and the one who understands, that he obtains guidance so that he can understand what's happening around him. And listen, I believe that is indicative of where we are and what we should be doing, what we are called to do during this time that we are living in, as we are trying to ultimately make it all make sense in our world today. I want to know what you are trying to make sense for you. What is it that you are trying to make sense in your place, in your space? And I thank God for the opportunity to share in this medium. And sometimes, there are many different things going on, and we have to try to compact all of this stuff that we want to talk about into a 45 minutes to an hour session that we can have conversation with you. But listen, I want you to share with me through your comments, through your questions, through your concerns. What are the things that you are trying to make sense in your world? And yes, we want to know what's happening. And many of you all have been reading the news. You've been listening to the news. You've been hearing what's been happening on ESPN. We have wonderful things that are being talked about in the state of Mississippi on the ESPN, and then we have some god awful things that are being talked about on ESPN from the state of Mississippi. And so let me just touch on the lighter parts of what we want to share today. There are 3 or 4 things I want us to look at today, and just 3 or 4 things I want us to take some time and digest and discuss in our time today. Want to look at what's happening on the very, very positive side in the state of Mississippi and in the city of Jackson. What what Deion Sanders has meant to Jackson State University and to the city of Jackson as a whole. Want to get your thoughts on that? What your concerns are on that? Another positive that we can talk about this evening, and we'll talk more about it as we go through here. The accountability scores that have not been officially released, won't be officially released to after Thursday, but the noise and the news has already gotten wind of those scores and what that means for the city of Jackson and Jackson Public Schools and those schools that are surrounding Jackson. And then on the more, what are we going to do? How are we going to handle this? Kinds of levels. The Brett Favre situation and how that keeps growing and growing with the text message, Brett Favre and Phil Bryant being caught up in this particular scandal related to TANF funds that were meant for those who were poor and economically deprived. Those funds, those federal funds, being utilized for building of volleyball stadiums and attempting to use those funds to enhance football facilities, and how that is playing out in our national discourse as well. So we want to talk about that kind of stuff too, and obviously we can't leave here and live here in the city of Jackson and not talk about the water crisis that we're still dealing with, and continuing to talk about the mayor and his positions and the positions that he's taking and the things that he is pronouncing and the pronouncements that he makes through this period and point in time. And so I just think that those are some of the issues that I am trying to make sense in my own mind as we walk through here today. And I am trying to make it make sense. And there's been so much happened since the last time I saw you again. My son had a 16th birthday. I had an opportunity to share with the Mississippi Black Leadership Institute group meeting over at Tougaloo College, which I happen to be a proud alumnus of from 2017. And I shared with them on last Saturday about the erosion of leadership, especially as it relates to education in Mississippi. And we're gonna look at that a little later on in our time together to see how that erosion of leadership is even playing out in the news that we want to celebrate before we leave tonight. Celebrate those accountability scores and celebrate that. But I want to begin tonight. We're just saying a collective, community-wide, citywide thank you to primetime Deion Sanders and all that he has meant and all that he has done to bring national attention to the city of Jackson, to the Jackson State University football team, how he has changed the landscape of recruitment, how he has changed the landscape of the resources, the personnel, the prominence of SWAT football or HBCU football. And every now and again, when you are trying to take something to a very higher level than it has originally been at, and we know the history of HBCUs in terms of athletics and all of that. We know why they were necessary. We know why they were started. And just in case someone does not know how the HBCUs got to be where they are, obviously we had a time in this country where we were dealing with segregation, not only at the public school level, but at the collegiate level, when African Americans were not invited, not allowed, not intended to attend what we call now predominantly white institutions. And so these HBCUs were birthed out of that to give rise to educational opportunities as well as athletic opportunities to young men and young women of color so that they could have opportunities to engage in those sporting and activities. And for a lot of years in the 70s, 80s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, Jackson State, Grambling State, Mississippi Valley with Satellite Titan and Jerry Rice, and Jackson State with all of the persons who have come up out of there, Grambling State University, and so many other HBCUs were the prominent places where young black men could gain their footing and get recognition by the National Football League and American Football League and make their way into a pro situation. And as the white institutions started seeing this talent on the field, they began to recruit that talent and pull that talent out of there. And obviously the quality of play in the HBCUs as a result, because the white schools had more resources, they had more recruitment dollars, they had more carrots to throw out to gather you in and do those kinds of things. All of that stuff put pressure on HBCUs, and it had gotten to the place and the point where HBCUs were at a level where they were still recognizable, still doable, still doing the hard work, but they fell on hard times. Because as you all know, your athletic budgets bring in many of the dollars that schools have to operate. The SEC, the Southeastern Conference, brings in almost hundreds of millions of dollars a year. College football alone is over $1 billion industry. And so there are billions of dollars that are coming in every single year to these institutions. And those schools that are part of that SEC split those profits. And so that's how conferences work. And they build up their schools based on all of those hundreds of millions of dollars that come in through ticket sales, through television rights, through concession sales, and all of the different things, and building that up. And in the midst of all of that, a few years ago, prime time, we know him as Deion Sanders, cornerback, played cornerback for the Atlanta Falcons, the Dallas Cowboys, the San Francisco 49ers, and won Super Bowl championships with both of them, came to Little Jackson State University and began to change the culture and the climate of that college institution, that HBCU, and he has brought HBCUs into a brand new spotlight, and we owe him thanks for that. I know no matter what you may think about the school, no matter what that may not be your team, that may not be what you were looking for, but we owe Deion Sanders a measure of gratitude from all HBCUs, whether you're a private institution like Tougaloo College, where I graduated from school, whether you're part of the SWAC or the MEAC or any other HBCU conglomerate. Right now, all of those schools are being risen in prominence thanks to the collective efforts and work that was began by Deion Sanders and the great work that he is doing. And listen, when people hear the work that he's doing, don't get so caught up in some of the words and phrases that you hear him say. He is a man of faith. He is a man of fervency. And so, yeah, he made a couple of statements a week or so back about, listen, our team was playing like a HBCU, and they want to come out and they got to play better than that. And essentially, what he was trying to do was tell all of us and tell his players too, if you want these professional scouts to continue looking at you, if you want to make that $1 million NIL money, if you want to make, you've got to raise your level. You've got to raise your level of relevance, and you've got to raise your expectations of what you can do, what you can be, and he is pushing our young boys forward. And listen, we need to applaud him for that. And that's just the bottom line on that. And that makes sense in my own mind. I don't know if it makes sense in your mind, but I am grateful and thankful to Deion Sanders, prime time, for coming to Jackson, Mississippi, and making that possible. And I just wanted to say that to start us out tonight as we engage in our time tonight. I want to say to all of the schools in the metro area, Merry Classmas from the MDE. You have been granted a great gift because the accountability scores have shown dramatic improvement, measures of improvement that we need to celebrate. The official scores will come out on Thursday after the state school board officially meets and approves those rankings and ratings. But there are good signs of good work that is being done. And every time you can have a good sign of great work, you have to look beyond what the stats say and look deeper into the situation than was before. And so we are anticipating some celebrations that will be happening this week. And I want to stick with Jackson Public Schools because what Jackson Public Schools is, that's where we live, that's where we are, and that's what's happening here. And so Jackson Public Schools is going to be celebrating their unofficial results that will show that Jackson Public Schools has risen from a D district to now a C district. And that's worthy of celebrating. That's some improvement, and the accountability model has afforded them the opportunity to have that celebration, that's moving from a D to a C. And for the first time in a long time, there will not be any Jackson Public School high school that will be rated an F school. There will not be one Jackson Public School rated as an F school. That is worthy of us celebrating. And by the way, I want to mention Callaway High School is leading the pack, and their unofficial score is a score of a B. And so, and the accountability model takes into account all of the elementary, all of the middle, and all of the high schools. I just want to focus on the high schools today because that is the place where we get our students college and career ready. That is to get our students graduation ready. I believe if you have not had an opportunity to look at the data, I'm going to try to show this data on my screen. And so you all bear with me if it does not come up correctly, but you bear with me. I'm going to try to attempt to show this data on my screen up here if I can get it to pull up. That's called 20. All right. I hope you all can see this. It says in public schools data. Here it is right here for our viewing, right here on Jackson Public School District. Right here on the screen, Jackson Public School District grade will be a C. That is a C grade. Total points, now that's in the accountability model. We'll have to explain what all of that means on a different level. But their reading proficiency is 27.2%. Math proficiency, 22%. History proficiency, 48%. Science proficiency over the district, 33%. Growth in reading, 57%. Growth in math, 69%. Reading low growth, and that's for the lowest 25%. 60% growth among the bottom, the lower 25%, the bottom 25 of the fourth quartile. Math growth 73% for the bottom 25%. English and language progress, 41.5%. Acceleration. Now, acceleration means those students who are taking dual enrollment courses, dual credit courses, those students who are taking advanced placement courses, and as well as those students who are scoring level 3 and above on those end of course tests. 54.6% of that. College and career readiness percent, 19%. And then over here at the end, it says the graduation rate of 84.6%. That is the highest graduation rate that Jackson Public Schools has had in some amount of time. And that is good news, as Brother Pepper said. That is absolutely good news. We ought to celebrate it. And we ought to celebrate while we have the opportunity to celebrate. And just like at Christmas, when little children are opening their gifts, they no longer worried about whether they've been naughty or whether they've been nice. What they have done now is they have gotten to Christmas Day and they're opening those gifts, and they'll deal with all of the other ramifications later. But I want to let you know that there is at least a caveat in there that when we need to be considering as a part of that process. So notice I shared with us that the reading proficiency was 27%. That means 27% of Jackson Public School students read at a proficient on grade level or above, which also means that the opposite is also true. About 73% are not reading proficient. If 22% are proficient in math, that means that 78% are not proficient. Same thing with history, same thing with science. But we're moving in the right direction. Now, here's the caveat. Much of this takes place on the heels of coming off of a pandemic, where those scores have ebbed and flowed and gone up and down. And so it's right to celebrate. It's right to see those graduation numbers improving. It's right to see those things, and it's something that we can rejoice in. But there is so much work that's left to do. Someone sent me a Facebook message earlier today asking me to review an article that they had written to talk about those results, and wanted my feedback. And one of the persons that I have mentored over the years, and I'm grateful for the work that they do in making sure education and tutorials and different things are happening in the context of where we are and what we're doing. And I want to just share with you what I shared with them. I said, listen, this is a wonderful article that is well written and great action steps that are meant for the stakeholders and those who are involved. We have some wonderful action steps, and what they argue in the article are some things that can help set up students for success. And I want to also share part of what they wrote, and I did not get their permission, but I am absolutely sure that they will not mind me sharing on this screen, and I will definitely give them credit for this work. This young lady's name is Jillian Smart. This is Jillian here, Jillian Smart. This is dated September 22nd. Let me show it on the screen here. This is dated September 22nd, 27th. So this came out today, and where she discussed with wonderful information and data analysis what has been happening in the state of Mississippi, looking at the test results. And she shares data, and the data that is here related to English proficiency. And we see in 2020 that because of COVID-19, no tests were given. And in English or math. You see where we were in 2019 in English, 41.6% proficiency. And then in 2021, we dropped down to 34.9% proficiency. And then in 2022, went back up to 42.2% proficiency. That is tremendous on its surface. Now, and then shares information of how we can set up students for success. Set smart goals, know when it's time to ask for help, engage in groups that create your own groups to inspire new ideas to drive learning and success, build an action plan for your child if they need tutoring, and follow all up to date strategies for success. I wanted you to get to this article is in the Mississippi Free Press. Mississippi Free Press, today's date, on the come up. Mississippi academic achievement exceeds pre-pandemic level. That's what I want you to get from that. I wanted to share that and shout her out for putting that information out there. Kudos to her and the great work that she is doing. I do want, and I did share with her. Here were my concerns about the data that we have now, and I'll just share them to you. My view on the data is, while this is worthy of our celebration, in order for me to make it make sense in my own mind, in my own head, in the way that I think through things, what we saw in her data table was that essentially in 2021, students were told that their results would not necessarily count against them, but they had to take the test. Let me pull the results back up so you can follow along with me and get what I am driving at in this particular article. The results. Notice again that in 2020, because of COVID-19, no tests were taken. And then there was a tremendous drop off in the proficiency scores in 2021. Now, part of that is because, and let's just make it make sense, let's be honest, let's be transparent, but let's celebrate what we have. Part of that is because students were informed, whether rightly or wrongly, by parents, teachers, community leaders, school districts, school boards, and whoever else was saying it to them. We were all part and parcel of the scheme. We understood that in 2021, the test score results would not count against the student. And so that as long as they took the assessment, they would be given credit for having taken the assessment, and that would put them on track to graduate. That would put them in the position. Now, if you have questions, if you have concerns about what I'm saying, put them in the chat box. Let's talk about them before we jump off of here today. But it's Merry Classmas from MDE for all school districts, because 2021 said that all they had to do was take these assessments, and that would put them on track for acceleration, that would put them on track for graduation, that would put them on track for having these scores. But now the proficiency numbers drop way down. But now watch this. While the proficiency numbers dropped way down because students, quite honestly, some did not take it seriously. Yes, could there have been some learning loss? Absolutely, not denying that at all. But when you tell a student that all you have to do is take it, doesn't matter what you score, you're going to get credit for having passed it, regardless of how you perform. That takes a lot of pressure off of every student and every parent. They no longer have to worry about that test to graduate, because that test stood in the way of a lot of students graduating. But now watch this. While while the proficiency number went down, guess what took a skyrocket shot up? The graduation rate. Now you explain to me how the proficiency goes down, but the graduation goes up if there's not something askew. Let's make it make sense now. Let's be transparent. Let's be truthful. Let's be honest. And let's make sure that we have the right thing in the right thing. Yes, let's celebrate that Jackson Public School is not a D district and definitely not an F district. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. Because the graduation rates were able to climb because students no longer had, for the 2021 year, did not have to score a proficient or advanced on the Mississippi Academic Assessment Program test. And so the major result test scores showed a decline. And districts had an argument for returning to the classroom in the midst of COVID because the argument was that virtual learning did not work. I take umbrage with that because for many students, virtual learning was a godsend. For those who are introverted and extremely introverted, like I am, like my son is, and like so many of his friends are, virtual learning helped them become better students because they learned how to do better research than they had ever learned how to do before. They were learning how to do those kinds of things. And so I want to make sure that we are not skewing data to one side and one narrative only, but that we're taking an honest look at the data. Yes, there was learning loss because students were not in school. Yes, there were learning loss because students were doing virtual learning. And those who did not benefit from virtual learning may outpace those who benefited from virtual learning. Let's say, for instance, 15 to 20% of the population preferred virtual learning. Should not now all of our districts have a virtual option for those students who would thrive on virtual learning? Let's not make the argument that learning only takes place best inside the brick and mortar building, because there are other issues inside that brick and mortar building. But the graduation rate soared because of it. And when you have graduation rates that are soaring while proficiency is dropping, there's something ought to trigger in your mind as to what's happening as a part of that process. So we are grateful, we are thankful, we are excited about what the possibilities might be in terms of what that means for Jackson Public Schools. And again, unofficially, it won't be official until Thursday, but unofficially, Jackson Public Schools is now a C-rated district, not a D-rated district as they were previously. Callaway High School is now a B district. They're leading the pack, leading the charge. Callaway Chargers. Callaway Chargers are leading the pack in football. They're the only undefeated school in the district. Now they're the district that stands above and stands shoulders above every other district. Every other school in the district with a B rating on their accountability model, followed closely behind with Jim Hill, Murrah, and Forest Hill being C-rated schools, C-rated school, and then Lanier, Wingfield, and Provine all being D schools. Now, one or two of those schools were F schools, and I'm not here to cast any aspersions or put any downs on. They are no longer any schools. No high school in Jackson Public School is a F-rated district. And that is the major point. That is worth our celebration. And yes, Brother Pepper, yes, sir, that is real good news and progress that's worth celebrating. And Brother Pepper, I'm going to share this on the screen, what you said, because I think this is important for us to talk about. Pepper said that's interesting. So during the years of 2020, 2021, I wonder how the teachers taught. Normally, they would have been teaching to prepare for testing, but during those 2 years, perhaps they were free to really teach so that students could really learn. Yeah, Brother Pepper, that is absolutely what I'm trying to argue and suggest in this point that I'm making today. Teachers were able to get to a place where they could actually teach. Y'all forgive me, I'm having some difficulty showing the remainder of it. And so, yeah, it is really good. It's really worth celebrating. Let me read the rest of what Pepper said in there. And so teachers were able to teach with freedom uh, during those 2 years. They were free. Perhaps they were free to really teach so that students could really learn, and maybe that played a role in the improvement of the district and the school scoring. I always felt that the state mandated testing was a hindrance to true teaching and learning in the classroom. Pepper, I can't get that whole thing to show up on this screen. But man, that is right on. That's what I'm driving at. That's kind of the direction I'm going. One of the things that we as a community and as a group of people have to make sure that is happening is that there is real time information and narratives. We have got to move out of the mindset of purely teaching for testing purposes only. Uh, we cannot be teaching for testing purposes. And yeah, Brother Pepper, there were some other issues and some other things that were going on as a part of that process. 20 the 2020-21 school year saw a lot of districts having hybrid learning. So you had students who were doing virtual, you had students who were doing in the classroom, just like still have many of our churches do an online service and an in-person service. And so it benefits both parties at the same time. Those who are more comfortable being in the sanctuary worshiping get the wonderful benefit of being there. Those who are get the benefit of worshiping online, they get the wonderful benefit of worshiping at home, and both of them get to experience the same thing. And so, what I believe it in some parts that we have to consider in our educational systems today is to make sure that there is a virtual option for those that need it. But also, Brother Pepper, we need to make sure that there is a freedom to teach with fervency and zeal that's needed to show students what they need to know and not be so regimental, not so robotic, not so pre-planned, and you got to look at this and look at that. And that creates a more creative student. That creates a more cognitive mindset in that student, a more collaborative mindset where that student can now express themselves and be free to think. And we talk about creating college and career ready students, but we want to stifle them with the same kinds of educational systems that we've had since the 50s and 60s. And I got another message in here. I want to share this. Shayna responded to Charles, said, "I love this. Lord knows teachers needed an opportunity, and hopefully the pandemic will allow a permanent shift. The numbers are speaking, so it should not be disputed. That is the foundation of teaching. Amen, sister. Shane, that is absolutely a critical piece. The numbers are doing the speaking. Data never deceives. Now, those people who deal in data points will oftentimes deceive. The data is the data, and you can make of the data what you want to. But when you look at it transparently, when you look at it truthfully, you cannot make an argument that uh, if proficiency goes down, graduation rates ought to go up if the data is actually what we were looking for. Now you can suggest and say that because of these situations, because of the circumstances, and that's why I am saying Merry Classmas, because it was Christmas for schools and districts all from last year, because they were allowed to have that freedom to do that stuff, and because of that freedom, the graduation rate soared so high. And you have to remember, when you're looking at accountability data, the graduation rate always lapses a year. So the graduation rates that they were given credit for this year is based on what happened in that 2020-2021 school year. And so that's how a lot of these schools, a lot of these districts were able to raise their numbers, because their graduation rates were skyrocketing, because students no longer had that pressure on them that they had to do that. And so I wanted to share that with you all, because I got hold of it today. I got wind of it today. And I said, this is a wonderful thing to share with our community today. And so that you can share it as well with your, let's celebrate the fact that JPS for this year can say we are a C level district. We're making strides at improvement. We're going and doing the work. And then let's hold them accountable to maintain that C for next year. Because now they still have to go back, and now they have to take the test. And now the test still counts. And now all of the things that they were freed from before, they have to engage in now. Now you have to make proficiency to get credit for it. Now you have to score on the ACT. Now you have to perform on the AP. Now you have to do the things that you were doing pre-pandemic. And so now let's see what happens in the next year. Can Jackson Public Schools maintain that C? Can Callaway and Murrah and Jim Hill and Forest Hill maintain those high level scores? And can Provine, Lanier, and Wingfield, can they keep pushing that wind behind that sail and keep moving forward in the way that they need to go? Let's encourage them. Let's hold them accountable. Let's make sure that it happens. Let's be in the school boards meetings, even if you have to attend YouTube and send an email later. Let's join our P16 councils. Shane, I want to put that shameless plug in. Listen, if you are interested in what's happening in Jackson Public Schools has a state mandated P16 council that any school district that was rated a D or F had to have. Now, Jackson Public Schools is a C district. They don't absolutely have to have a P16 council, but they got to maintain that status. But we need a P16 council. We need a Working Together Jackson council. We need a Jackson Association of Educators. We need Jackson, those who are looking at making inroads into Jackson Public Schools to make Jackson Public Schools better. We need every one of you in the room, at the table, on YouTube. The school board meetings are live streamed on YouTube now. Just like you're watching me online, take you a few minutes in the course of your month and watch the meetings, see what's happening, ask questions of the school board members, send them an email. If you know teachers in the district, ask them questions, ask them about what they know about what the district is doing. Ask anybody in the community that you know. That is our challenge if we want to hold them accountable, if we want to encourage them down the road, if we want to make sure that this is not just a Merry Christmas once in a lifetime grade that we cannot hold on to in the coming year. We have to, as a community, rise up and do the work, collectively gather together and deal with all of these issues that are going on. Now that I've had all of the celebration, now that we've celebrated prime time for the wonderful work that he has been doing in making sure that the names of HBCUs, especially the names of Jackson State, is lifted up in our community and getting national prominence. Now that we've celebrated Jackson Public Schools, and I didn't even talk about Clinton and Rankin County and Pearl and Madison County. I wanted to talk about Jackson Public Schools and their rating and how they are progressing. And I'm grateful that they are progressing. I'm celebrating that they're progressing. But you do know there's some other stuff going on that we have to make sense in our community. You do know that Brett Favre is getting under more and more fire. Brett Favre threw more interceptions in the NFL than anybody in history. Brett Favre has probably been hit and hurt more times than most people in the NFL. And now he's going to take some more hits. And along with him, Phil Bryan is going to take some hits. And my prayer is that Tate Reeves takes some too, because all of them are in it together. You all know the story. You all know what's been going down. You know what the news is reporting. And the news is only reporting the part that piques your interest. What the news may not be reporting is the part that's going to bring one or two of them down. We've talked about how Brett Favre has done this much and done that much. I won't put that on the screen, but somebody said maybe his CTE kicking in. Maybe that CTE is affecting his decisions to steal TANF monies from those who are poor and those who are trying to make ends meet to build a volleyball stadium down at his alma mater. All of the hundreds of millions of dollars that Brett Favre made in his football career, in his advertising career, in his off the field activities, and all of the things that he has done. Why did you have to take $5 million from the TANF funds for poor people? But now and as important as that statement right there is, here is the more important question. Why did Phil Bryan and Tate Reeves believe that it was okay to take the money out and take the food out of the poor people's mouth and put it into the fattened calf mouth already? Because they have both railed against giving poor people extra TANF money. They have strongly stood against giving them extra money. I ain't talking about giving them an extra $1,000. I'm talking about giving them an extra $100 a month. You know, Tate Reeves earlier this year said that we had to cut off the money from when they were getting the funds, the unemployment dollars. He wanted to cut it off because he said it incentivized people not to work. But your predecessor gave $5 million. Now that's just five. We're talking about $96 million misappropriated from the TANF and welfare fund. $96 million misappropriated, given to lavish people to live lavish lifestyles, to build buildings in their name or in their honor at their institutions where they can receive honor, that could have went to poor people, that could have lifted them out of poverty, that could have changed their life and their legacy. Y'all make it make sense to me now. Make it make sense. What do we have to make sense today? We are trying to make it make sense. How do you do that with a clear conscience? The answer is you don't. Brett Favre proved the case that you don't do that with a clear conscience because he made sure that he asked the former governor, now listen, if I get this money, y'all gonna be able to make sure that this don't get out in the news, right? Now, y'all hear the spin that's getting ready to happen. Because what's gonna be said is, no, I just didn't want people talking about it in the news because I wanted to keep it as an anonymous donation or something like that. It's not gonna be what it was. And so while we have prime time trying to bring national attention and prominence to HBCUs and lift them up so that they can get greater and better resources, we have Brett Favre, on the other hand, taking from the poor money that was intended for welfare recipients, for poor women, infants, and children, and people who could not afford. Our state governor, Phil Bryant and Tate Reeves, have been vehemently opposed to Medicaid expansion in this state because they believe that the poor don't deserve good health care. But they believe we can take that $5 million and send it down to USM or Ole Miss or Mississippi State or whoever else, New Summit School. Yes, sir, brother Pepper. Man, what's done in the dark will always eventually come to the light. Absolutely. That's absolutely on it. And watch this here. More audits. That's what Shayna says. She absolutely on it. More audits are going to reveal that monies have been misappropriated for decades. Now, understand, Phil Bryant was the state auditor. Tate Reeves was the state treasurer. And it was Tate Reeves, the lieutenant governor, and the governor who would appropriate monies from bond issues and kept Jackson from getting money for their water crisis 10 years ago, 15 years ago, as they were trying to make their way and make their case on the backs of the Black community. And so monies, hundreds of millions of dollars, have probably been misappropriated over the decade. I'm afraid it might be billions of dollars. But you stand totally against expansion of Medicaid to give people a better health, quality of life for their health. You stood totally against people receiving unemployment dollars from the federal government because it disincentivized work. And now all of this comes out. What are you going to say? What are you going to say? Make it make sense, y'all. I'm just trying to make it make sense. I'm here trying to make it make sense. What are you trying to make sense in your world today? If we don't get a handle on the leadership in our state and in our city, we are going to all be in a whole lot of trouble real soon. And behind that, I'm going to say this last thing, and I'm going to call it a night. I understand why Phil Bryant does it. I understand why Tate Reeves does it. What I can't yet understand is why the mayor of the city of Jackson is making some of the statements that he is making, and why he's taking some of the steps that he is taking. Not just about the water crisis, but the city as a whole, the waste management crisis. There was a meeting held on yesterday with religious leaders across denominational lines, across racial lines, at New Hope Baptist Church. The mayor was there, the EPA director was there to talk about the water crisis and what's going on. And one of the pastors there is a close associate of the mayor. And this person wanted to bring up what was happening with the waste situation, because his hands are tied into the money that Richard's disposal hopes to receive. And the mayor is allowing that kind of conversation. The mayor is talking about a referendum on waste when the referendum was 19,000 people voted out of 150,000 in the city. And we elected you as the mayor. Now you want a referendum because them same 19,000 people voted for all the council persons. The council person's job is to vote on the issues that we've sent them there to do. At this meeting, they're talking about water. You have somebody to show up to talk about waste management and getting the waste crop. Yes, listen, preachers can have different sides of the coin. They can have different thoughts about everything. But that was not the time, not the place, Pickett. I call you by name. That was not the time, not the place. But you're supporting the mayor in a losing effort. Absolutely, to distract from the real issues that are going on. And then after the meeting, today even, the mayor said that after the EPA has said we're going to have a judicial oversight, put this information out there, have it out there so that we can know what to do, the mayor comes on and says, well, it's just a form letter. Mayor, sometimes it's best to bite your tongue. You got the national EPA director trying to help you. Don't fight him. Don't fight with Tate Reeves because he got state money. Get what we got to get from Tate Reeves. Get what we can get from the national. Congressman Benny Thompson is trying to get $200 million allocated. Even Roger Wicker said he's trying to chip in an additional $20 million. Let's not bite the hand that feeds us in this moment. If it's really about the citizens of Jackson being restored and made whole, come to the table, sit down, act like you are an adult that you are, behave as the mayor representing everybody, both the people who voted for you and the folk who want to vote you out, and make this thing happen. Turn the situation around. Let's get it under control. Let's go there. I didn't have a lot of time, and I don't want to disparage the mayor. I know he's working hard. I know he's trying to get the work done. I know he feels the pressure. I'm praying for the mayor. I'm praying with the mayor. I'm praying about the mayor. But I'm mostly praying that we can have good, clean water. And that we can have solid waste disposal that is non-controversial for everybody. That's what I'm trying to make sense tonight. And listen, as I leave you all with it, every night I leave you with the same thing. And I'm going to leave you with it tonight. The Lord bless you and the Lord keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Bless you, brothers and sisters. Thank you all for joining with me. I'll see you next Tuesday at 8 o'clock if the Lord's will. Hey, by the way, I'm going to just throw this in there. Saturday is me birthday. And so, y'all, I'm getting older, but I'm thanking God that every day that I'm getting older. Y'all be good, be well. We'll see you on the other side on next week if the Lord's will.